Hello, everyone. Welcome to Their Journey, a sit down with the National Digest. I'm your host, Eric Mastrota, and today I have the pleasure of once again speaking with Dr. Janet Smith Warfield. Today we will continue our discussion regarding life, language, and of course her amazing foundation, Planetary Peace, Power, and Prosperity. If you haven't already, I highly encourage you to check out parts 1 and 2 by clicking the links in our description to see our initial conversations and for more resources regarding what we talk about today as well. Hi, Janet. How are you doing today?
Got so much going on, I can hardly keep my head on straight.
Perfect. Well, I thought to start us off today, in both of our last conversations, we only briefly kind of touched on the logo for Planetary Peace, Power, and Prosperity. And I know the design of the logo was created very intentionally. So I'm hoping you can kind of take me through and describe what the process of designing it was like, the intention you wanted to express through it, and how it came to be what it is now.
Long story.
Mm.
Um, the foundation came into existence on April 17th, 2020. That is legally and formally within the United States legal structure as a 501(c)(3) educational foundation. So that structure was already in place.
Mm.
But there were just a lot of pieces we wanted to enhance on or develop. So around that time, I was working with, as I frequently am, with a small group of people, but intelligent people and thinking people, each coming from a different perspective and each having their own ideas and input. So we've got this brainstorming session going on. Was probably about the end of 2020. The logo that you see in front of you was not the logo that we ended with when we were putting it together in 2021. And there's a backstory to that, which has to do with money flow, interestingly enough. We were working with a paid designer who, and I had agreed to pay him $3,000 to design this logo, which we are brainstorming from scratch with no structure in place, just who are we and what image would best represent who we were. So we're going back and forth in our own little group brainstorming this. The multicolored aspect of it. It kind of represents all the different views that were coming into this conversation. And then we're passing the information on to the designer, and he's giving us, he's giving him what he understands us to be looking for in the design. And it keeps morphing and morphing and morphing and changing when we're going back and forth between among the small group, first of all, and then with the designer. And finally, he hit a point where he sent me a bill for $5,000, and the logo was not done as far as I was concerned. I'd agreed to pay him $3,000. If I wasn't going to pay him more money, then he was going to quit. So our first logo had a big circle in the center. Other than that, it was kind of similar. It actually, I used artificial intelligence, AI,
Mm.
recently to correct the image. I don't remember whether I was using ChatGPT or whether I was using Claude, but I believe one of those two. And it corrected it for me just like that, like in about 45 seconds. This is the correct image. And it mirrors to some extent the path that I think each unique human being on this planet takes in some way during their own precious life. You start out in that center point, and the center point represents a timeless, spaceless point of pure present moment awareness. And we are all conditioned then from that moment when we're physically born as a baby to learn language. Well, language separates, divides, and categorizes. And it tends to take us out of present moment awareness as we learn these maps or these concepts, these words that separate, divide, and categorize. And they're really useful tools. I use them a lot, but none of them is truth. We have created these. And that is, let me see, how can I express it? Looking again at the logo, that's the manifestation outward along one of these unique lines, unique colors, unique intentions, unique directions. But when we're conditioned by a culture, which we all do, and we're conditioned by a language, the language we're taught. I mean, how many different languages are there all over the planet? They all sound different, although you can correlate the words and translate the words in one language to another, which there are certain systems that are very competent in that these days. It all comes, all those creations, those word creations come out of I'm going to call it a timeless, spaceless point where we haven't been taught anything yet by our culture or by our parents, by our teachers. We haven't been abused, some of us, in a power over power under dynamic. Some of us haven't been abused like that. We've been supportive. And that's a whole different energetic dynamic, human dynamic. But if you look on our website, I think it's under the tab consciousness diagram. I'm not sure because I didn't go back and double check. You'll see these different paths. There's the let me see. Now, another term for that center point is non-dual consciousness. Timeless, spaceless. You're just there in that center point. And from that center point, first you're taught by your parents and your teachers to go out along one of those lines into, I forget what I called on the diagram, but you learn words and you learn how to use them. And some of it is really useful and helpful. But you're also stuck in a single way of thinking, which you've been taught. And you see the separation that the words actually create when you can think of it. And this probably is an analogy, but in the Jewish and Christian Bible, in Genesis, when man ate of the tree of knowledge, he got thrown out of the Garden of Eden. So, there are all these thoughts playing around in this, which are all those different colored light lines going out in different directions with different intentions, different focuses. How do we come back to that center point of non-dual consciousness or timeless space, this point of pure present moment awareness, and then work and play together by exchanging thoughts and supporting one another? That's the challenge. So that, and from that point, that center point, once we get ourselves back there, release ourselves from everything we've been taught, or see it not as truth, but as tools. Tools to translate our experiences into words so that perhaps we can communicate them with other people. So once we learn the tools, we're still learning. You learn your entire life. I'm still learning from other people. But you're making decisions from that center point.
Mm.
and then choosing where to go out in a particular moment, depending on um, the circumstances, who
Mm.
you're with, where you are, what your inner resources are, what your external resources are. And then you choose right here, right now,
Mm.
how you are going to be, how you're going to respond. You'll see this in a totally different format on the website, Planetary Peace Power, andprosperity.org. And I think it's the top label is consciousness diagram.
Mm.
But it then shows it's much simpler. It's not colorful, but it's more left brain analytical with labels on the different forms of consciousness. I'll use that term. So, anything else you want to know about the logo?
Well, honestly, that kind of perfectly leads me into what I wanted to ask you next in terms of language specifically, also because in speaking with you so much for not only this podcast, but the articles we've done together too, language and communication has stood out as a major part of everything you do and everything we've discussed. So I'm wondering, throughout your whole life and up to where you are now, I'm wondering how your relationship with language has changed and how has your work and development with the foundation also sort of aligned with that kind of change and transitioning.
That's a huge topic, Karen. Um, when I was around age 30, I had just get my props here. I had three eye-opening experiences after I had been struggling with bedwetting by my oldest son, and I could not solve it. And if anybody wants to go into more depth on that, I tell those stories here in this book, my first Amazon best-selling book. Um, I tried everything with this bedwetting. So he was 5 years old. He'd been toilet trained for a while. And all of a sudden, when my third son was born, my old son began wetting his bed. And, I tried ignoring it. I tried talking to him. He listened very carefully. The bed's still wet. It's more work for me. I've got three preschoolers to take care of. And I don't need this aggravation. And being the quote perfect mother, of course, I had to every time he wet the bed, I had to strip the bed, wash the sheets, wash his pajamas and everything. But then I think it was my mother who gave me a copy of this book called Summerhill
Mm.
by A.S. Neal. And A.S. Neal was a schoolmaster of, I think it was a private school called Summerhill in the UK. He had a really strange way of dealing with problem children in his classroom, the ones that were throwing spitballs or punching each other or whatever they were doing to disrupt the education. He didn't make them stand in a corner until they could be good. He didn't make them write 100 times, I shall be good. He didn't send them out of the classroom into the cloakroom and make them stand there until they could come back in and behave. He gave them a pen.
Mm.
And I thought, what? Why in the world would you do that?
Mm.
Um, it didn't make any sense to me, but I had tried everything else I had been taught and nothing was working. So I'm open to trying anything at this point. I don't understand it. I don't know why I'm doing it. It's not my left brain functioning, except to have read this book. And I had a model in front of me, a new model to try. So the next morning, the bed's wet, Bill's pajamas are wet. I didn't say a word. I just went to my wallet, pulled out a penny, gave it to him, and walked away. And he kind of looked up at me as if, I wonder what's wrong with her this morning. This is not normal mother behavior. But he never went But then again, I am astounded.
Mm,
And there are two other experiences after that that I talk about because now I was changing myself. I
mm,
wasn't trying to change Bill. I was changing the way I was functioning.
mm,
Um, there's more depth I could go into, but I think we probably don't have time here.
mm,
But let me just jump ahead a little bit and I'll leave out some details. Um, as I went through changing my own conduct, not really knowing what I was doing, but working with a new model, I was having these amazing experiences in all my human relationships, the dynamics. And it was, oh, isn't that interesting? I changed who I was and everything around me changed. So I didn't understand it. And I also didn't know what to call it. So I was, again, getting into language. I was looking for the words.
mm,
First of all, to name these experiences I was having, I read William James' Varieties of Religious Experience. And when I got to the section on mystical experiences, I thought that sounds exactly like what has happened to me. So now I got a word label
mm,
for the experiences that I've been having. And I've had many other experiences like this in my whole life. You can't explain them with your left brain. You
mm,
are not creating them. But, I was so excited about the shift in me that I wanted to tell many other people. And this probably gets back to your original question, um, which is my journey with language. It's part of it.
mm,
Uh, So I wanted to tell everybody because I wanted everybody else to see how easy this is once you change your own conduct.
mm,
So I was just talking with everyone, and I was met with these blank stares and, people who clearly were not hearing anything I was trying to communicate. And again, I was really frustrated because the question that I was trying to answer was, how can I use analytic, divisive words to communicate a unifying, holistic experience?
mm,
And I couldn't do it. I was trying like crazy, but nobody was hearing anything I was saying. Then I changed one word in that question that I've been trying to answer for about 15 years. How can I communicate a unifying holistic experience using analytic divisive words? I changed the word communicate. How can I use analytic divisive words to um, facilitate
mm,
a unifying holistic experience in other people?
mm,
So then it was really moving back into the center point of the logo, just being aware in each and every present moment of what was going on inside of me, what was going on outside of me. There's some people who don't want to hear anything you have to say, fine. But there are other people that are really interested in learning or growing or changing their own lives so that they can bring inner peace and personal empowerment and a sense of um, prosperity, which is not necessarily money. It can be a money flow, but it can also be just a sense of having enough gratitude for what you have been given and for this one precious life that you're living, despite all the challenges that flow into it.
mm.
Um, so changing that one word
Right.
in my question changed everything
Mm,
because then I was focusing not on communicating concepts or communicating my experience. I still do that sometimes, but it's really being here now.
Mhm.
Oh, Doss, thank you very much. The center point of the turning world, T.S. Eliot. These are all analogies for this journey through life that I think every person is ultimately taking, whether they want to take it or not. And we're all taking it in different forms. I
Right.
don't know whether that answers your question or not, but that's certainly one way
Yeah.
in which both my language and my conduct changed. And if you look at the Buddhist Eightfold Path within Buddhism, um, one of those paths is right words. So, what are the right words? It depends. It changes depending on context. That's why you need to be aware and pay attention because some people don't want to hear a word that you have to say.
Right.
Um, I have a daughter-in-law like that. She thinks I'm telling her what to do. That's not my intention, but that's the way she hears my words.
Mhm.
Um, you have anything else you want to ask along this line, or
Definitely, yeah, because I think it's incredible how you touched on just changing the impact that just changing that one word kind of made in terms of what you were trying to communicate to people, and then the impact that made and how it was able to be more well communicated overall. Because I wanted to ask if there was kind of one idea or concept regarding words and communications that you wish people would really kind of sit with more and understand. What would that be for you? Because I think that was a great example of just like the power that can be made.
you see, this is dynamic, Eric. It's not static. We want to stop the motion so our left brain can look at something that doesn't move and analyze it and cut it up into parts. But while our left brain is trying to do that, there is some force or energy, or there are lots of words I could use for this, power greater than myself. God, Brahman. Uh, I can't think of more right now, but there are a lot of words
Right.
that we have created to. They're like fingers pointing at the moon. They point to an experience
Mm,
that is possible that anyone can have if they are open to receive it. So you asked me for depends on context is one thing, one answer to that. However, if you want me to give you one,
yeah.
it
Yeah.
would be know yourself.
Mm,
And that means paying attention to what's going on inside you and outside of you,
right.
and what your resources are, what your inner resources are, your skills, the things you've learned
Mm,
during your one precious life, your ability to actually live them
mm,
in your own life. Um, but yeah, know yourself.
mm,
Now, how do you do that?
right.
Um, For me, it was interesting. This is again, if you're listening to what other people say about you, the name Janet, my first name, which my parents gave me, means gift of God.
Mm,
My mother always told me it meant wonderful gift of God. But then some of my high school classmates who were in a clique were calling me queer. So which was I?
mm,
I'm listening to these two different inputs. And I didn't know, who am I? What am I?
right.
Am I queer or am I a wonderful gift of God? Who knows?
Right.
I don't. When you stop listening to what other people are saying about you,
Mm,
then you can connect. I'm going to use that word with who you are
mm,
right here, right now. And that also is dynamic. That changes.
right.
And you probably can't conceptualize it, but you can be it. in each and every moment. That gets into cosmology. That's another topic we don't have time to go into depth on right now. Um, but the questions that help when I was in a real funk or that kind of a bind, like, who am I? Am I what this person says or am I what that person says? And I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
I started asking myself some questions to get myself out of this tension and this not knowing. These are the questions. What do I think right here, right now? What do I feel right here, right now? What do I need right here, right now?
Mm-hmm.
What are my choices right here, right now? And you're always in choice. A lot of people don't realize that,
Right.
but you are always in choice. You can say yes or you can say no to something that you're being asked to do by somebody else. Those were the first four, and they really helped me a lot as I answered those questions for myself, not for other people.
Mm-hmm.
And then I added two more later. What do I need to know? What FORM, information do I not have that I need to uncover and discover?
Mm-hmm.
And you can do lots of searches now, or you can talk with other people and get answers to that. What do I need to know that can move me forward? And whom can I trust? Because there are some people out there who will promise you the moon. Maybe the moon isn't anything stable right now because we have done that. Who will promise you anything and then not deliver? And they act as if, oh yeah, I'm the expert in this. This is what I will do. But none of us really knows
Yeah.
what we can do and what we can't do until it plays out, however it plays out. And I think there is some power greater than any of us that's running the show. We think we're running it as human beings, but none of us is omniscient, omnipotent, or omnipresent. Does that answer your question on that one?
Like, no, definitely, definitely. And I appreciate the perspective about the present specifically when it comes to knowing yourself, because I feel like a lot of times, I mean, for myself included, people can get really caught up in their past when thinking about who they are today and aren't clocking into no today and what you need in this present moment, like you were just explaining. So,
It's not that you discard the past because it's history, his story or her story,
hmm,
and they're different. So when you go back and you look at it and you remember it, um, it gives you, as I say, a history or a her story of what your own path has been, or perhaps to some extent what another person's path has been.
hmm,
So, and they're all different. They're unique. Each one of us is unique, which is another reason why we miscommunicate because doggone it, I know what I've got. I'm
yeah.
right, you're wrong. But it doesn't work that way.
Right, right. Yeah. So, sort of on the opposite end of speaking about the present, to close off, I'd love to hear from you when thinking about the future for yourself and the foundation also specifically. I'm wondering what you kind of see or envision and how you see the work and how the foundation has grown continue to do so and continue to grow.
That's a really interesting question. You know, yes, I do have some ideas. We're certainly, and this will go along two different tracks here,
Right.
going out hopefully from that center point.
Mm,
Um, One is at least for the past 5 years, I think, we've been looking for acreage, a substantial tract of land
mm,
on which to create, co-create, and manifest. When I say we, I'm talking about the core group of people with whom I'm working. I'm connected with people all over the planet, but there are different levels of connection and intensities of connection. So one track, which we're working on right now, is acquiring a tract, T-R-A-C-K, and tract, T-R-A-C-T, just to clarify what I'm saying, the tract of land. And I've been looking at this for a long time. We almost acquired one. And this gets in probably too much backstory. But when the system rules change, something that you could easily have done 25 years ago, you can no longer do. And I'm thinking specifically of when the banks collapsed in 2008 and the government bailed them out. Then the banks, in return for the bailout, had to follow all the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac rules. So at this point, even though I personally own, you say personally because I've got them in legal entities, but basically I have control of 3 properties for clear, but I can't get a mortgage for them back anymore. I could have done it easily before 2008. I can't do it now because all the major banks want to see is your tax returns. And I think I'm not going to go into any more depth on that. However, there are private mortgage companies you probably would pay their money. But with the assets that we have already, and I say we because I'm referring to, excuse me, not only to myself, but also to the other people with whom I am closely working. By myself, I probably could acquire a substantial tract of land someplace. And right now we're looking in the Western Mountains of North Carolina, higher elevation than Florida. Florida may well be totally underwater in 100 years. And it's where I live now, but Western Mountains of North Carolina, Poconos, and the Adirondack Mountains. There are a lot of things besides height, elevation, and title work. I mean, I'm a retired title attorney, so I know a lot about how to study titles, but then there are other issues to consider, like, assuming with my own money and my own current assets, I could by myself acquire a substantial tract of land. I mean, there's one we were looking at up in the Adirondack Mountains in New York, over 200 acres with a blueberry farm and old apple trees already on it. That to me looked interesting until someone with whom I was working said, well, you got to watch out for New York state or New York taxes because they will tax you at every possible level you probably possibly can. So I don't know, is that one off the table? It depends. We're not at a point yet where we can actually go through the process of having enough money for a down payment. I mean, one of my properties, which is in the country of Panama, is listed for sale right now. I don't know how much money is going to come in from that, but once it sells, then we will have something that has landed enough money for a down payment. And then we can work maybe with a private mortgage company, or I can sell one of my other properties to fund the purchase of the land, or maybe in some cases there's owner financing. There are a lot of things in play here that I have not yet landed. But then the other thing is, I'm almost 90 years old. And is it time for me to, let me see, I was going to say pass the torch on to someone younger than me? I don't think I'm ever going to stop doing what I'm doing. as long as I have the physical and mental capacity to do it, because I know what I have hold of. I have a semantic solution to all the human created suffering on the planet, which is how we use our words toward one another or with one another. Do we use them to support one another, or do we use them to bash one another? I know what I want to do and what I always intend to do. I don't always get it right because I am not omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent. But if each person on this planet would only answer their own question, who am I and am I here to do? This unique person that has been born into a physical body. Peace, inner peace, personal empowerment, and prosperity would become planetary because we would all, and it's going from each little unique microcosm up to the macrocosm of planetary,
Mm.
making everyone brings peace, inner peace, personal empowerment, and a sense of gratitude or abundance or appreciation, despite all the challenges that get thrown in our faces all the time, but into their own life. This is possible, getting yourself back to the center point of that logo there, that timeless, spaceless point of pure present moment awareness. And then learning, growing, supporting one another in a power with dynamic, which is not static, it's dynamic. And we would have planetary peace, power, and prosperity going from the microcosm of inner peace, personal empowerment, and sense of prosperity up to the macrocosm of it becomes planetary. I see a lot of that happening right now. I don't know whether you do. Depends on where you're focusing and
Mm.
what you choose to focus on.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Wow. Well, I think that's the perfect way to close this out. Honestly, Dr. Warfield, thank you so much for taking the time to not only speak with me today, but for the past 3 episodes and offering all your own experiences, expertise, and your overall just insight into everything that we discussed. I really appreciate it. This has been such an amazing experience.
I appreciate your and the National Digest giving me the opportunity to do this with you.
Like, yeah.
So you see, we're in this dynamic.
Yeah.
We're very different people, but we're in this dynamic together, which I may have said this before. If you stop the motion, you have the Christian symbol for prayer, the
Mm.
Buddhist symbol for namaste, or maybe it's the Hindu symbol also for namaste.
Yes, yes. And like I said, for everyone at home, for more information on what we spoke about today, Dr. Warfield's work, and the Planetary Peace and Prosperity Foundation, check out the links in the description where you'll also find links to our previous episodes, articles, and additional resources. Once again, I'm Eric Mastrota, and this has been Their Journey, a sit down with the National Digest. Take care, everybody.